Hey Raiders, welcome back to the How to Be a Better Raider series. My name is Jaxscer, or you can call me Betty, and I'm one of the raid leaders for the casual raiding guild Reservoir Troggs on US Thrall. Today's topic is keybinding, and I'm going to take it way back to my beginnings of improving as a raider and how I went from a keyboard turner and a clicker to being a raid leader after being coached by my old guildmaster on this topic. So why is keybinding important? If you're a clicker, then keybinding will be one of the biggest improvements you can do to maximize your DPS and increase your survivability. The default Warcraft UI and bars are actually horrible for maximizing the use of your abilities. They draw your attention from the screen, as to hit anything past the 5 key, you'd have to move your left hand and reposition it constantly, as your ability bars go from 1 through the equals key. Next time you watch another WoW content creator's video, or your favorite WoW streamer, look at his bars, and you may notice, even if he's using the default UI bars, they do not have the normal keybind shown on their ability bars that you may. As I mentioned, if you had your abilities just bound to your defaults, you'd have to move your hand from the movement keys, which are at WASD, to the other side to hit the equals key, and this is counterproductive to being able to hit a needed cooldown in a timely fashion. In this video, we're going to cover suggested keys to use for your core abilities, binds to use for semi-used abilities, and binds to use for abilities that need a keybind but are rarely used, as well as show you how to free up some keys and improve your survivability by changing the default movement keys. Keybinds are very personal and spec specific. My keybinds work for me, but I recommend you take this information in this video as a starting point and not a strict guide. So let's begin this raid. The default movement keys in WoW are detrimental to actually raiding, and although we're many expansions in, Blizzard has yet to change them. Movement is important while raiding. The longer it takes you to move, and the more you move, the less time you have to DPS. There's a tried and true saying in WoW, as the ABCs always be casting. So unless you can DPS or heal while moving, you want to be able to reposition, plant your feet, and get back into your rotation as quickly as possible. Having your turn left and turn right on A and D is the slowest method for turning and running away from a mechanic. Mouse turning is much faster. If used right, you can turn in an instant, or you only need to move a little bit, strafing is just as quick. So how do you mouse turn? Holding just the left click while moving your mouse will reposition your camera. Very helpful for being able to turn and see what's going on without having to turn your character away from your target. But holding the right click will lock your character to face the same direction as your camera, and this is how you mouse turn. Holding both left and right click will make your character run, so being able to turn with the right click, then hit your left click and move out of a mechanic will pretty much be the fastest way to survive. Practice makes perfect, so if you don't already do this method, make sure to practice it. So now that we are mouse turning, we don't really need A and D as left and right turn. My suggestion to all new or veteran players is to rebind strafe left and strafe right to these keys, which will allow us to free up Q and E to be used by other abilities, which we'll talk about later. Also, if you don't want your camera to reposition every time you move, as you need to see a specific corner of an encounter, go into your menus, interface options, and camera menu, and change the default camera actions to never adjust camera. Now that we have Q and E available, let's talk about the keyboard as a whole. Your hand usually rests at the WASD key. The closest keys to these that don't require any movement of your hand are your 1 through 4, Q, E, R, F, Z, X, and C. We just freed up Q and E, but looking at our default binds for Z, X, and C, they're very niche situations that you'd use these. I can't think of the last time I actually sheathed my weapon during a raid, or had to open my character screen, so I probably could move them to less used keys. The 5 to the equal keys are very hard to reach without moving your hand or taking your eyes off the screen. It can cost you DPS, so I recommend binding your abilities to keys near your movement keys. Having keybinds and learning what ability is on which one takes time to master and practice, but it's much faster and more accurate than trying to click our abilities. This could be the difference between 3 or 4k DPS or millions on the damage bars over a 5-minute fight. So after changing a bind, make sure to spend some time at a practice dummy or run LFR to get used to the new binds. I personally, though, do not keybind certain things, like potions, health stones, or augment runes, and have them on their own bar, as I only use them in emergency times like before or after or once during a fight, or when I'm about to die, and a misclick could cost me hundreds of gold. If you have a programmable keyboard, a lot of this is a lot easier, as you can use the manufacturer's software, be it Logitech or Razer, and they allow you to remap your keyboard without having to play around in WoW's convoluted old menu system. I use a combination of remapping keys and changing the keybinds in-game. Gaming mice also are great for keybinds, like the Naga by Razer or the G602 MMO mouse. I personally use a G502 FPS mouse. For keybinds on there, I usually keybind the mouse 4 and mouse 5 for abilities that I constantly use, like either a movement ability or a taunt. As I said though, keybinding takes time and practice. I change my binds all the time, trying to improve things and tighten up my rotation. So let's get into my suggestions. Put your filler and most usabilities on Q and E. Your core abilities on less than a 15-second cooldown should be on your 1 through 4, and your abilities that are 15 through 45 seconds should be on Z, X, and C. Using a bar add-on also makes this easy, as keybinding is much faster if all you have to do is hover over the button that you want to do and hit that key, instead of going into the default UI menus and changing your keybinds there. Now, if you have a lot of abilities, or you want to have everything keybound, modifier keys are also able to be used, as Shift Q or Control Q are different from Q by the game. So basically, you could map 36 keys without ever having to move your hand. I personally use Bartender 4 as my add-on to do my key bindings and to make a more accurate representation of my bars as a reminder, but personal preference and experimentation are what will make this work best for you. If anything, I hope this video made you think about better key bindings or how to set up your bars a bit to improve your rotation and make it so you can survive more in raids. What keybinds do you use or gaming mice as I'm looking to upgrade soon? Let me know down in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. Well, that's it for this video, but as always, remember to enjoy the raid.